Well, I guess we'll get started. Good evening. Welcome to Newfane Selectboard meeting, Monday, March 4th, 2024, 6 p.m. We have Jeff Chevalier, Katie Johnson-Aplin, and myself, Angela Whitfield, here at the table. I'm not sure about our other two board members. I thought they were both coming, so maybe they will show up. Has this meeting been properly warned?
Yes, it has.
Are there any additions or amendments to the agenda?
I'd like to make a correction.
Okay.
The minutes that are being voted on for approval are for the special meeting for Tuesday, February 20th. The warning had an incorrect date.
So you changed it on the ones we have here?
You can make a motion for approving as corrected, and I'll post a new correction.
Okay. Good evening, and now we have Ann Golob, live and in person.
Yes.
Welcome. Yes.
I have a request for
Yes.
the agenda. I'm Deborah Luskin. If we could do all of the moderators' work at scheduled members of the public.
Sure.
All together. That'd be great.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll move right into the approval of the February, what was stated as the 19th, but is corrected per Juaneta's request as the 20th. Is there a motion approving as corrected?
I make motion.
Second?
A second.
Thank you, Jeff. Any discussion? And we have Mike Fitzpatrick, welcome. We're just approving the minutes as corrected with the correct date on them. So, is there any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained.
I didn't look along with it, I'm sure they're fine.
What's that?
You're all set. Sure they're fine.
Okay. The ayes have it. Thank you. And our road foreman is sick, so I do not believe we have a report from him today. So we will move right along to the treasurer's report. Good evening, Melissa. Welcome.
Hi, I wasn't doing a report tonight, so.
Okay. And with that, we'll go right to Juaneta for the administrative assistance report. Good evening.
Good evening. I have written out explanations for some of the articles for town meeting tomorrow. I did share them with Deb Luskin, and if there's any corrections, we can do that this evening. I will be out of the office on Thursday, which would normally be the select board's reorganizational meeting. Would you like to move that to Monday, and I'll do a warning for that? And then as a follow-up with, I followed up with Steve Levine regarding the request for the large antique wagon wheel at the Williamsville Hall. Steve and the Hall Committee agreed that it would be better preserved at the Historical Society.
Is there a motion to approve the administrative assistance report?
Make a motion.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Ann. Discussion? Organizational meeting. I'm available on March 11th, providing you really have to wait until the votes come in tomorrow to see how we all fare. There's some people that are running. But is everyone else available?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
6 o'clock?
Mm-hmm.
All right. After tomorrow, we'll be in touch and we'll get that out.
Okay, thank you.
I guess we'll go through the articles with Deb. And did you contact the Historical Society about the wagon wheel? or the person who requested it?
Laura is gonna wait until better weather, but yes, she is aware that Steve has approved the gift.
Okay, great. Anything else for the administrative assistant report? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, ayes have it. Thank you so much. Committee report. I know we have a letter from Kate from the planning commission. I saw. I didn't know if you wanted to do that now, if you wanted me to read the letter.
Sure, that would be great.
So, from the Newfane Planning Commission to the members of the Newfane Select Board, I write on behalf of the Newfane Planning Commission to let you know that the Planning Commission is working on a proposal for a revolving loan fund for housing that would be funded by a portion of Newfane's ARPA monies. The primary goal is to offer low-interest loans for Newfane property owners to upgrade existing rental housing or to convert or create apartments or accessory dwelling units, ADUs, in existing buildings and properties. Housing was one of Newfane residents' top priorities in the Planning Commission's 2022 survey of Newfane's residents' priorities for ARPA funding allocation. Housing needs for local residents have grown more acute over the past 2 years, and this local issue is compounded by state and national housing shortages. The Planning Commission has looked at ways to address this issue from several angles. Among them, last year, we hosted a panel of speakers who discussed ways to increase housing through incremental development and loan and grant programs for apartment upgrades available from Wyndham and Windsor Housing Trust in the state of Vermont. As you know, we are currently working with the Wyndham Regional Commission on bylaw amendments that are intended to support increased housing access as part of Newfane's bylaw modernization grant. Given time pressure for ARPA funding, and we understand a growing number of individual requests for private and project-specific grants to be paid from Newfane's ARPA funds, we want to confirm that we are working on a housing-related proposal. We respectfully suggest that the Select Board reserve remaining ARPA funds for investment in a public project that responds to the community priorities identified in the Planning Commission's 2022 survey. Ann Golob has been assisting us, including the suggestion to explore the possibility of a revolving loan fund, and we appreciate her engagement. Feel free to reach out to me, to Ann, or to Nolan Edgar, Jane Douglas, or James Bresser with any questions. Many thanks, as always. Kind regards, Kate Gehrig. Do you want to say anything further on your letter?
Sure.
Or any kind of updates from the Planning Commission?
Glasses. I think the letter explains what we're trying to do. We know that there's a pretty tight timeline, and we think that it will benefit the town, sort of in terms of the hope is to create more housing and also to reinvest in this community and its residents and helping create that housing at a scale that makes sense here. We are still working hard to make sure it could make sense, which is why we've asked that you reserve funding rather than say go ahead and commit to this plan, just to make sure that it can make sense given what we can administer. I don't know, I see Jane there and Anne as well, who knows a lot about this. I don't know if you have questions for me or for either of them, or if either Jane or Anne wants to add something.
You were talking with another person from another
Yes, we
town.
spoke with, and he came and spoke to the Planning Commission, Garrett Fox, who helped head this up in Rockingham. And he shared all the papers that they had and what their experience has been. And he was extremely positive about it. So figuring out the technicalities of making it work in a small town like ours when we don't have a large staff is one of the challenges. So I think there are still a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross to figure out exactly how it would work in our situation. But I think it's one of the, in my opinion, one of the better ideas of what we might be able to do to respond to the request from people in town who filled out the survey and said, please do something on housing. If you the most obvious way to do something on housing in most locations is try to build something. Try to build something big, but we just can't because we don't have sewers and we don't have water treatment. So without that, it really limits what we can do. And while we certainly can think about it, exploring, looking into the possibility of sewers and where it might make sense, etc., I think we really need to respond to something faster. If you want to think about sewers, I don't think that's going to happen in less than a 10-year timeline from what I have seen. Maybe 5 if you're lucky.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe, right? So it's a much longer timeline, but the need is so acute now. We have people with larger homes who may want or be interested in subdividing it, but coming up with the money to do it can be difficult. So this is a way, I think, that allows people now to be able to consider doing something. I think it's a really worthwhile idea to keep pursuing. We're not ready to present it to the select board or to the town because there are more details that need to be worked out. But I think we're getting closer. We've been learning a lot, and it's really interesting. And it's been very successful in other places.
Given that we have a limited quantity of money to start this, have you been discussing maximum amounts that would be considered for however many people? And are you at a point where you'd be comfortable discussing that?
I think that's a great question. I think we're not there yet. Part of what we're trying to get a beat on is what kind of work would be meaningful, like to convert an apartment, say. I think it's worth thinking about that, especially if it's a revolving fund, because you want to keep it, and I would imagine, right, loan amounts that are meaningful, but also not tie up all the money in one project. Like some of the examples we had from Rockingham were kind of in the neighborhood of $20,000 or smaller amounts. So if that's true, you could, if you were investing in 5 units in this town, that's actually meaningful. That's a meaningful amount, I think. And it's a way to, it doesn't preclude anything else or anything bigger happening. It doesn't preclude other changes in the bylaws or, developers coming to town with great plans. But it does, hopefully create opportunity for folks. I think we wanted to look a little more closely at whether there would be interest and what that interest would be. We are talking to last year, the Wyndham and Windsor Housing Trust came and talked to us about the loans and grants they give. It sounds like they're swamped, their programs are on hold, but they have said they will provide their loan documents to us. We're still waiting. Sounds like they're very busy right now. For those documents, and I also have been told, I haven't yet had this conversation, but we're waiting to have a conversation even with the folks at 82 Credit Union up the road, just to talk about how this kind of thing, how housing loans work. And I don't know if they would be a potential partner. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but we're looking at that to sort of how the loans could work, who they could work for. I think questions we have had as a planning commission that we haven't yet answered are like, what would the conditions of loans be for whom, or what kind of projects that could accomplish the goal we have as a town in creating this kind of fund. So I don't think it's a full proposal yet, but we know the clock is ticking, we know the money is going, and we didn't want to come to you in like 2 months and find there's not enough money left to make a meaningful difference, especially if folks are concerned about spending that money in a hurry.
And has it been talked about who in the town office would be responsible for handling and keeping in track?
That's a huge part of the conversation. That's probably the biggest question, and part of why we are, it would be a lot to add to the zoning administrator, which especially right now is it's tricky to, add that. That said, I think coming to understand better the administrative burden and whether we could have partners in helping us to do that would be a big part of like the biggest question, and whether or not we would recommend it to the town is would it be workable and hopefully workable well.
You could, whether or not the credit union is a potential partner to handle the administrative piece of it. would be one question.
I don't know, but we've reached out to them.
Right, exactly. That would be-
Might be willing to have that conversation.
Deb?
So I've been thinking the credit union as a possibility. I think that you guys might be ahead of the curve, and that down the road, as more towns do something like this, there will be more administrative support, but the Wyndham Housing Trust is an obvious possible partner. Maybe, I don't know, but the Vermont Community Foundation, these are organizations that have experience doling out money. And I think that the Community Foundation, you get to say how you want your money spent. And some of the money goes to supporting them, but I think not a lot.
I don't think a community foundation, knowing how they work, is a likely candidate, but I think the others might be possibilities, or even banks. You know, it's all a matter of what they would charge in order to provide the service.
Right.
If we decide to go that direction, I have to say that when you ask the question about how much, it would be, I was surprised at Rockingham that the amounts weren't that big, but yet they were making the difference.
I think Rockingham is instructive, but we can't say we won't mirror that.
Rockingham does have a lot of those old giant mill
Yeah.
houses that, like Brattleboro, $20,000 in Brattleboro could easily convert one of those large homes into multi-units. We don't have a ton of those 4,000 square foot homes here break up, but it'd be interesting to look into it.
Well, ADUs, the accessory dwelling units are another possibility where
Yep.
either build it attached to the house or separate on the property as long as the septic counts the capacity.
Yeah, I know Wheelpad is working over in Whitingham. They have their whole business model is basically ADUs on demand.
What is it again?
Wheelpad,
Uh-huh.
so it's basically a mobile structure that they can bring in,
Uh-huh.
and it can be like an in-law apartment or something that just attaches to the side of your home. You can use it until you no longer need it, and then trade it back in and
Oh,
get money back.
interesting. And you said that was where?
Wheelpad, I believe they're over in Whitingham.
Wow, that's interesting.
Okay, so it's still a work in progress. Information's still being sought out and looked for. So,
Yeah.
I would like to propose a motion pursuant to this. I would like to propose, we have about, I think, 170,000 at the moment. I believe I'm right, now ARPA fund. I would like to propose that we, I know there's some other requests that have come in. I would like to propose that we agree to hold 150,000 and wait and not disperse that until we've heard from the planning commission with their proposal. And if for any reason their proposal doesn't come through and it's not workable, whatever, then we could consider doing something else. But I think for all the work that the planning commission has been doing to try to track this down, and that it's a primary concern of the townspeople, I would ask that we approve a motion to hold $150,000 of the ARPA funds to see, until we get a proposal from the planning commission.
is there a second?
Second that.
Any further discussion?
I think, didn't we already plan on putting that into a fund anyways?
Well, we talked about
We've
it.
been talking about it.
That's on
We
for
talked
tonight,
about it
later
before.
on.
Say it again.
That's on.
I mean, it's a great idea, this whole thing like that, but it's, I think it's one thing, way too little, too money. I mean, 170,000 don't go far in today's world when you're trying to subdivide or anything and turn it into a state spec deal. I mean, you can spend 30,000 on a septic, they told you to do it for a house, or something. I mean, you only got 170,000 bucks. And how quick do you revolve that money? I mean, if it's gonna come back to pay it back so everybody else can keep borrowing, I mean, you really need $1 million to put into something like this to ever make it even work. I would believe, I mean.
Other towns, surprisingly, and I totally agree with what you're saying,
Right.
like that is exactly what I thought. But when we look into it, other towns have been able to figure out making it work. So really, I think all we're saying is let's just give it some more time to figure it out. I absolutely.
Yeah, it'd be hard to figure it out, but I'd like to see how much you've got in them kind of funds too, you know, I mean.
Say it again.
I'd like to see what kind of money they got set away for something like that also, but like I said, if you get 170, I mean, you know, Chris, $20,000, it's 7 people, isn't it, or something like that, or that's 140,000.
But I mean, people.
Yeah, but I know, but how quick do you revolve that money? Is it gonna be a short-term loan, so it's coming back within a year? You know, at 30% interest, or?
The concept would be a low interest.
If it went on
Anyway,
for 10 years, you know, none of us probably see it ever come back to where it's supposed to be, you know?
You're asking really fair, really detailed questions. We don't have the answers yet, but all we're asking for at this point in time is more time to come back with all those detailed answers. They're all fair questions, completely.
May I add one?
Yes.
Which is just that I think this is we should have more conversation, maybe not to take your time on the eve of town meeting. So it really is now, like, can we just hold space for this? But I would love to, especially if we're gonna propose that, to have everybody's hard questions and to make sure we answer them before we set a plan in motion. Right now, this is just, let's gather and answer those questions. I'm mindful that you have a lot on your agenda, on your plates tonight. But I think at this point, those are great questions, and we would hope to answer them before we say, we all should do this.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Putting it into a separate fund?
No, this is setting
just
it
to not
aside
spend it.
tentatively.
Yeah, I thought we already have set it aside then.
This is just making it formal, they're making a motion.
While they're doing the further research for the revolving
Yeah.
low interest loan fund.
I guess we'll set it aside, it ain't going anywhere, so.
I have a question. Well, does that mean that, we're here, that tonight, these people that have
Those will still be heard.
Okay.
We have 170,000
Yes.
in ARPA funds, and we're asking to reserve 150.
Right, but so if people are asking for more than 20 tonight, then there's some decisions to be made
No,
because.
that 170 already has subtracted and included those numbers.
Oh, okay.
From Melissa just now.
Okay.
Okay, so finishing the voting. We have 3 ayes. Mike?
Well, long as it's getting just set aside, it's no brainer, I guess, you know. I'll go along one, I'll just set aside somewhere, but I thought we already done that anyway, so.
Ayes have it. Okay, yes, Mary?
I have a question about this. I understand with Anne, it sounds like a very good motion about goodwill and trust that you want to put that money aside. But what's going to happen with the people or residents here who might be here today or next week who are still, my understanding is, since you say you have $175,000 left, that you put away 150 when the committee is not ready to do something about it. Isn't that withholding the opportunity from other residents right now?
We're talking about a few months. So I don't think the planning commission is asking for more than a couple of months to try to figure this out.
Well, it looks like according to this, we have 182,000.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that the
936.
amount for the Williamsville Hall when he was in last week, was that 20,000 or 10,000? It was 10.
95.
It was 95, okay, so that's gonna change then.
Up or down?
So you need to put more in, so you have like 192,000.
At 10,
At
back
10.
Yeah, and
192.
add 10.5 back in.
So that means we still have 40,000. That's not been tentatively set aside for this revolving loan fund. So everybody will be heard when they have requests. So
So it'd be 193, 436.91.
193,
436.91.
Okay. Minus 150. All right. Anything further on the planning commission's report or request? If not, we were going to move right along and welcome our town moderator, Deb Luskin. Good evening, glad to have you.
Thank you. So there are 3 things I want to do tonight that I know of. The first is I want to go over the town report. Second is I want to go over the warning and find out who's in charge of what. And the third is I think I'm going to do some Robert's rules and help people understand how to do things. So in the town report, I'm just doing this with this board, assuming that it will get passed on if necessary, but that this will be, the board will be very similar, if not the same. And it has to do with the traffic committee, which is mentioned in your report, but there's no listing of it. And I know that when I was on this committee, we never received letters, or I never received a letter saying I was appointed to the committee. And I know that when I was on the Williamsville Hall Committee, I was. So I just think it's an administrative thing that the board needs to consider. And then there could have been a report from that committee in the report. Because I know that they're doing good work, and we don't have a newspaper that's covering it. So that's just a small thing. The other thing, I'm one of the people who's actually read the whole report, and that was the auditor's report. And one of the things that I hope the town is going to do is take them up on their fraud risk assessment. Just that it's something that the auditors think we should do. I think that, for everybody, including protection of people who have the money, should have this.
What page are you on?
That's on page 82. They recommend the town form a fraud risk assessment to reduce the possibility of fraudulent activities. And that's just good governance. So, that's all I have to say about town.
Okay, thank you.
Hi,
John.
So, big day tomorrow.
Yes,
41
especially for you.
41 articles. So we've got, there people will ask questions. I'm sorry that, I'm sorry Jay's not well. I don't know if there'll be anybody to answer questions about roads tomorrow.
Here's hoping.
Yeah, well, that'll be well anyway, but. And you'll be coming, okay, and I guess I don't need to know now, but I need to know tomorrow. When someone asks a question, I need somebody up here to say, I can answer that, all right? So you can stay up till midnight figuring it out, all right? And then I had a note from Ann saying that 2 things. One is the select board was unaware that they did not have to put Article 11 on the warning.
Right.
And the other is, since it's on the warning, is there a way to pass over it? So I need to know first, did you vote to put it on the warning or not? I mean, I didn't look through the notes, the minutes.
We voted on all the articles together.
All the articles.
Yeah, as a whole.
Was it unanimous?
Yes.
Okay. So.
Well, I think it came as a petition, didn't it?
It came as a voter back petition, and we voted as a whole to approve all of the articles.
Okay. Without knowing.
Without
I want
knowing
to say that it
whether
was in this century, but the century's getting a little old, as am I. That there was a ruling, a court ruling, saying that select boards did not have to accept these.
Right.
So.
But the question, I
So
guess.
the question is now, There's no guarantee that it won't still be discussed. But if you want to object to the discussion, there are several ways. I'm gonna give you this. Everybody can have one of these. On the back page, number 14, Passover, not a spring holiday. In Vermont, it is something so I don't know how long I've been doing this, but here's one for you and here's one and pass that. It is so I've been going to the town sends me to moderator school every year, and every year we learn about Passover, and it's very complicated, and so I've never really paid attention until today. I've definitely paid attention. There's some really great, as you'll see on 14, it's a Vermont tradition, and it was upheld by the courts in 1867, but more recently, a court said that a recent court case decided that on the basis the court did not conclude what Passover meant. All right, so instead of passing over something, I'm going to tell you what your choices are. And what makes it confusing is where in the process of a motion the objection is made. All right? So there is a main motion. Someone I'm sure will make a motion to pass. I will read the motion, Article 11. Someone will make the motion, someone will second it, and discussion might start. In which case, it becomes a motion to postpone indefinitely, which means we will engage in a discussion about the merits of discussing or not discussing the article. All right? It can't be amended, and it can be passed by a majority. An easier way would be if someone objects to consideration after the motion is seconded and restated, but before discussion starts. And if the board feels that they have made an error because of not knowing what their authority was, I would suggest it would come from the board. But you've got to be
Snappy.
It's after it has been restated. Moved, seconded, restated, objected. All right? Now, the thing about this is that there is no discussion, there's no second, no discussion, no amendments, and it has to pass by a 2/3 majority. All right? So, you can get that far, and there may be 2/3 of the people who want to discuss this, in which case the discussion goes on.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Those are really the two different ways to do this, because only the person who moves it can withdraw it. And, no, we can't. I don't think we can suspend the rules. I will double check that. And that would be the same process as if was an objection, but before it's even moved. You know what? Let me take a minute right now and check suspend the rules.
Indefinitely.
It's one of these things that it's like you throw a pebble in a pond and it reverberates. Suspension of the rules. Oh boy, it goes on. Oh, that's the same as to lay on the table, 1710. Oh, and that would be to take it up at another time, which you don't want to do, is my understanding. 1710. Laying a question on the table with the idea of attending to something else. Oh, no, you can't do suspend rules.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
I came about a month ago, I guess, and brought up the feeling of many people, and particularly me, and then many other people, that I was asking that topic would not be discussed at town meeting, because according to other people, and then from the state of Vermont, the secretary saying that the select board has a right to deny even something that has had the motions and the petition signed, if it's not appropriate for town, if the select board ultimately cannot do anything about it. And then, Anne, you offered to get in contact with Vermont League of Cities and Towns. And unfortunately, I came back to the next select board meeting to hear what the result was. But I also had somebody at home who wasn't well, so when there was a break in the meeting last time for executive session, I had to go home. So would you be willing to say to me, since I wasn't there, and maybe other people, what did the LCT say to you at the time?
What they said at the time was that because of the timing, that we had already passed the time when you had to finalize the warning, we could not go back and just take it off. We had passed that point in time. And so instead what we needed to do was address it at the meeting itself, and they discussed the option of the Passover or the indefinite, I forget the exact wording, indefinite suspension.
It is objection, or postpone indefinitely.
Yeah, postpone indefinitely.
Right, to postpone indefinitely is to debate the merits of postponing, and to object is to object to consideration of the
Yeah,
motion.
but I was, when I was speaking about this, I just want to make it clear of what I was saying. I made it very clear at that time that I am not saying I object to those people meeting and discussing this topic. I was objecting to the fact that it's going to be held at a town meeting, which is supposedly having a meeting once a year to discuss town politics, schools, taxes, all that. And that I didn't think, and other people didn't think, it was an appropriate topic to take up time at a town meeting when there's nothing any of us can do about it. And that those people who would like to have that meeting are free to do it anywhere else and any other time, other than basically the 3 or 4 hours that we have once a year to talk about town issues. So when you went to vote for this, what were you voting on? To allow it to be spoken about? Were you talking about the topic or the fact that this might be inappropriate to have this kind of a meeting, a town meeting? Because you said you all voted on it.
We know. Our warning,
Originally.
with all of the articles, we voted as a whole to approve the whole warning.
Before you ever came to a meeting.
Right.
So this was like, I think the deadline was January.
I had already gone to,
The printer.
No, I know it could have been before the meeting, but since a lot of people were interested in seeing if this topic and a meeting could be held elsewhere at another time rather than on March 5th when we're having a town meeting discussing town issues.
And that information came to us after we had voted on the warning and sent it in for town meeting. So then we've done the research to investigate how we can move around the topic tomorrow.
So if anyone in town would like to organize getting together and having a discussion, I certainly don't feel like that's the job of the select
No,
board
of
to
course
figure
not.
out. But of course, anyone
They
could.
should meet wherever they want to.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying, and other people who also felt this way, they're just saying that topic, the topic is not appropriate for town meeting day when there's many other issues that we need to talk about, and we meet once a year. And they should meet at any time, any place, whatever else. I'm not talking about the contents of
I
what they
understand,
talk
and we
at
understood,
all.
totally understand, and we understood that that was what you were saying when you originally came to the select board meeting. But it was impossible at the point in time that we went to VLCT and asked what we could do. It was not possible to withdraw the question, to withdraw the article from the warning. Because there are deadlines of once you pass a certain deadline, it's like set in stone and that's it.
It's set in stone, and there is a way, there's a democratic process that is possible to bring up whether people want to talk about Article 11 or not. And that's what I hope I've explained, but I'm willing to explain it again if you've got questions.
Well, I thought you were saying before, maybe I misunderstood, that somebody from the select board would have to say something at a certain time.
No, they don't have to, but I was suggesting that since they were not aware that they didn't have to put it on. So first of all, Article 11 got onto the warning because enough people in town wanted it on the
Right.
warning, okay? It really, no, I don't have a crystal ball. Depends on who shows up at town meeting and who makes the motion, any motion. There is a process for taking it off the warning, taking it off the floor, not taking it off the warning. There is a process to object to it. And one process, you get to debate and you would have a chance to say, I don't think this belongs at our town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And someone else would maybe say, I think there's no other better place to talk about it than with your neighbors. I don't know what people will say. Town meeting is always a surprise, and I pay a lot of attention to what everybody says, because that's my job. And to make sure that everybody has a fair chance to speak, the same chance to speak, and that we follow Robert's rules, and that we make legally binding decisions. So, and Anne had done her research with the League of Cities and Towns, and the person's final thing was, talk to your moderator. So here I am. Does anyone have any other questions?
Chris?
Or
Chris, what?
yeah, Chris.
I just want to make sure that I understand. There are two choices.
Mm-hmm.
One is to pass it over.
Let's not use Passover because the court says we don't know what that means. Let's talk about to postpone indefinitely or object to consideration. All right,
That's what I was looking for.
let's not use the words Passover because it can mean a lot of things depending on where in the process of moving an article, discussing an article, reconsidering an article.
Okay, so one more time.
Yeah.
Postpone indefinitely or,
Object to consideration.
okay.
And would you
Okay.
review one more time what
Okay,
the
yeah,
sequence, what the
absolutely.
sequence is of when things have to be said?
If it is already in motion and under discussion, you can postpone indefinitely. It needs to be seconded. It's debatable. And that will take up a lot of time. And you debate why you think this doesn't belong on the warning and why you think it does. And everyone who's there has a chance to speak to it twice. All right? The other choice is to object to consideration. So the moderator reads an article, somebody seconds it, and the moderator says, this article has been moved and seconded, and then reads it again. After reading it the second time, after it's been moved, seconded, and read again, is the time for someone, and it's interruptible. You can interrupt, you don't have to be recognized, you can just stand up and say, I object. And then you're on the spot. You've got to explain what you want to do. All right? And you actually don't have to explain what, you have to explain what you want to achieve. I educate everybody about what's going on and help them understand if that's what happens. If it happens during discussion, I explain that.
So the best
And I
time-
think this is just the best way to go out. All right? Yeah.
So the best time to object is right after you've reread the article.
Exactly.
Thank you.
That puts it in motion before I call on anybody else.
And before discussion.
Before discussion. And there is no discussion about it. There is an immediate vote that has to pass 2-1. 2/3 of the body have to do that, and 7 people have to request paper ballots. Any other questions?
I would just like to clarify that if anyone from the select board chose to make that objection, they're speaking for themselves individually, not for the select board as a whole.
Good. I'm going to take that as a question, even though you put a period, not a question mark at the end. Since there's no debate, I was thinking, in my right fiction imagination, that someone from the select board said we were unaware of our right to not put this on the warning.
Right.
But, and then I would cut you off and say you object to this. I think you might be, I don't know how you'd be perceived. It's possible that you would be perceived as speaking for the select board.
I think I would, if I were to
can't
make
control
it-
that.
No, I understand, but if I were to make that objection, I would clarify I was speaking to myself because we haven't taken a vote as a group on that individual article, so I can't say what the rest of the board would do. So that feels unfair to speak for anyone other than myself.
Well, then so speak for yourself. I mean, that would be fine. I do think, personally, I'm not supposed to have personal feelings in this job, that it might be good to explain that legally the board did not have to put this on.
Right.
Okay.
Nobody has to be recognized to object at the right time.
Wait, say that last sentence again?
Nobody has to be, what did I say? Recognized. It's not even Tuesday yet. Nobody has to be recognized to say I object. Okay? So there could be more than one person who says it.
So as soon as you finish asking the question, somebody can leap up and say, I object. Great.
Any other questions about this or any other Robert's rules? I brushed up on them. This is the time to ask. Okay.
Anything further you want to discuss about tomorrow?
Somehow, on Front Porch Forum, it looks as if I said starts at 3 a.m.
Nice. I will not be there.
I get up very early, but I do not expect anybody else to be there before 9. Okay. Well, maybe a little before 9. All right?
What time should we all be there?
Now that's for you to decide.
Oh,
But at 9, the polls open and the meeting starts at 9.
Right there.
Yeah, so you should be in your place.
Whenever, but by 9.
I'm gonna take.
I would say 10 of at least, the
They're ready
latest.
by 9.
Be ready to go at 9.
Yeah.
Okay, Debbie.
All right, well, thank you so much for brushing up on that and for all of your information and our nice cheat sheet. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
And here will be the rest of these. I'm not gonna say them again, so I'm gonna, hope everybody takes one tomorrow.
Yes.
All right.
All right, anything further for Deb Luskin before we move on?
All right. Board of Civil Authority? All right. So I spoke with Carol today. I just hope that there's some members of the Board of Civil Authority watching who puts ballots in the box, because we don't do a check. When we have paper ballots, we don't do it during the floor vote. We don't do checklists. Bigger towns do checklists.
Oh, and it was a paper vote, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just somebody standing there watching that? Okay.
I hate to interrupt you all, but we need to keep moving. It's okay. I'd like to welcome David Hall and Greg LoPiccolo from the Newfane Anew Music Committee and Priscilla Cotton, who is here, I'm assuming, for Newfane Anew, to bring back their proposal that we had asked them to do. And I will turn the floor over to one of you to speak.
Okay. As requested, we put together a more detailed proposal. Did a bunch of research, which you should have.
There, I have another.
So just to kind of walk through it briefly, there's a bunch of sound equipment and a more limited lighting setup, but actually quite a good one. And then estimates for the electrical contracting work and some carpentry that we would need to do to get it all installed. Our plan, to be confirmed by Angela, is to meet with the village trustees on Saturday and run it past them, because we have to make some limited modifications to the hall and need their approval to do so. So we plan on talking to them on Saturday. It came in a little higher than the initial 22. It's a 25,844. We'd like to request the entire amount if it's available, but it's also worth noting that that if there's a gap, we can fundraise to fill the gap. And Newfane Anew is committed to that and has the capacity to do that.
24-hour rockathon.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing that I would want to say is this is a nice system. This will sound great, and is flexible enough to do a lot of different kinds of things. We could do public gatherings. We can set it up so it's very easy to anybody to operate, just to bring up the market to, for public announcement, for theater productions, any kind of public gathering that's necessary to be set up and configured to be usable by anybody. And we're committed to that sort of, training and onboarding and documentation and so forth. That's all part of the vision. Obviously, it's really accessible to everybody.
Greg brought an expert in for audio as well as lighting to kind of walk around and check stuff out. And we found anecdotally that the lights we were looking at doing would flicker if you recorded, took a video of it. And the guy was like, "Oh yeah, you got to switch to these instead." And so.
We talked to two people, Jerry Stockman at the New England Youth Theater, who oversaw the Williamsville upgrade, And there's a wealth of information where he totally knows what he's doing. You know, he's like, no, don't do that, do this, and you know, walking us through it. And it's probably gonna. He hasn't been on site yet, but he's planning on being on site in the next week or two, just to kind of refine things. And then there's a guy named David Lyons who runs Sonic Circus in Townsend, who's like a nationally prominent, you know, vintage audio, like professional audio dealer. So all the prices in here are basically wholesale prices facilitated by David Lyons.
They're good prices. I researched. Yeah, you got very good prices for all of this stuff.
Yeah,
that was one of my first questions. Was going to be, did you have an engineer design this system? Because every room is very different. Some speakers sound great in some rooms and don't work in others. Mackies are pretty good. I've worked with them a bunch. It's a nice middle of the road system, but yeah, very approachable. Will this mixer be able to be run from an iPad so you can mix from anywhere in the room?
It will.
Yes.
So we haven't budgeted the iPad, but it's important.
Yeah, everybody's got one of those somewhere.
And it has actually all the signal from the stage back to the mixing position is via Ethernet.
Cat 6, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So which, you know, shrinks the amount of electrical work and just makes the whole thing more stable.
Yeah, no, the new systems are great. They're very approachable. No. Looks good.
So it comes in a little bit higher than the 22?
It comes in a little higher than 22. We'd like the full amount if you're willing to provide it, but if you know, you want to hold us to the initial estimate, we're, I think, you know, in position to fundraise to cover the gap.
No, I think you guys did some. I mean, you come back with the figures and pretty damn close, so I'd go the whole amount.
So what we're hoping.
Are you making a motion?
Yeah, just did.
Is there a second?
Like I said before, I think it's great that they use those kind of things, calls, and get people to come around. The town needs it.
Well, it's worth noting that, you know, we've been having these, you know, meetings, reaching out to musicians. We have more than 30 musicians now from Newfane who are excited about participating. We've got programming lined up for the first several months with a bunch of people on deck to fill out through the end of the year.
And we have gigs booked every second Saturday right on through so far for many months.
Every musician that comes into that space is blown away with how cool it is. It's just a neat spot. So.
Yeah, I'm friends with a lot of national recording acts too that might be interested in playing here. So.
All right, we have a motion on the table to approve the full amount for the Newfane Anew and Music Committee. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Can I ask for just more information? I am struck by the fact that the totals to be able to fit out the system for Union Hall is so much more than what we paid for Williamsville Hall. And there, I guess we were doing lighting. I don't know if they were doing sound there. Maybe it was just lighting.
They did do sound there.
They did do sound as well?
Yeah, it's a much more modest system. It's really just like a couple of speakers for reinforcement for, you know, stage act or whatever. This is a significant step up from what they did there.
So this is more like a professional level?
Yes.
I mean, not crazy professional. I mean, you could spend 10
Right,
times
I know.
this.
This guy's a little bit more one could spend.
Well, the good thing about it, you got, like I said, David right up there at Townsend, that does a lot of this stuff too, so I'm sure if you needed help, he'd give you a lot of advice or
Yeah.
probably spend a lot of time helping you do it. You know?
So he's fully engaged.
Yeah.
He's
That's
wants
great.
to be part of it. You know?
Yeah, good people, so.
The only thing I could see, the 12-inch subs might be shy for that volume of space, but it's definitely a good start. If you could find 18s, you'd be happier.
One of the things that the first few shows we're going to do with our own gear, basically just to get a system in there and see what the room sounds like.
Yep.
There's a bunch of questions about, how much is going to come off the amps and drums and how much has to be, in the system itself.
Yeah.
And so we may steer a little bit based on what we learn.
Yeah,
But
that's
we'll have some experience before we actually like sign the check.
good.
Any other questions? Are we ready to vote? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? I'll abstain since I'm on both committees. But I'm all for it, so I'm excited. Thank you, everyone.
Can I just ask a correction in your letter? Your letter states that you're asking for 22,000, but in your detail, you're asking for 25,844. So could you just send us a new letter with the corrected amount?
The cover part.
Somewhere about the 22.
I certainly can. It's in the document that we delivered to you.
I'm just asking for the letter to match the document.
We can
You
do
can
that.
generate a letter, yeah.
The letter to match the
Because we
ask.
put it on the website, so I don't want to put a letter that has a different dollar amount than
Absolutely.
what the request is for.
Okay.
Can do. Thank you.
Thank you for getting back to us so quickly. We appreciate it and looking forward to more events in Newfane. And if there's nothing else for them, there's an agenda. Yes. Next, I'd like to welcome Walter Phelps and John Julian. They're here for the Williamsville Village. Good evening.
Hi there, good evening.
Glad to have you.
Walter is not here this evening, so I'm gonna take the banner and go. I think in your packets, you have a Williamsville sidewalk repair and replacement sheet. And so I think the easiest and quickest way to do this, I'm just going to read this statement. And I'll tell you kind of where we're at. We just kind of want to get on the radar. We don't have quotes yet, but we have been in touch with Evans Construction, who does sidewalk repair. They're going to meet with us out there and Jay and discuss this project, and then we can get back to you with the appropriate figures. We understand that ARPA money may be available, and that's what we were thinking about. So anyway, let me read this statement. Have you all got this sheet? Okay. Background. Historically, Williamsville never had a complete system of sidewalks for pedestrian traffic. It did, however, and mostly still does, have a concrete sidewalk on the north side of Dover Road, running from the corner of Timpson Hill, approximately 500 feet along the highway. Over time, this sidewalk has suffered neglect, and with the road surface being raised over the years, has actually been buried in areas. Many sections are broken, while other areas are missing or in rubble. In short, what was once a useful and attractive amenity to village pedestrian traffic has become largely unusable. So the scope of this project would be, the proposed project is to consist of the repair, I want to stress that, the repair and/or replacement of a pre-existing sidewalk on Dover Road in Williamsville. As the project will encompass pre-existing areas that require no work, the width of the sidewalk will be as it now exists. As per conversations with the town road foreman, all finished sidewalk will be at the same grade as the roadway surface to facilitate work by snowplows and to accommodate existing driveway access. Project will include addition of material, both gravel and topsoil, to both sides of the sidewalk as needed in order to level grade. And then this picture that you see is a Porter Thayer photograph, and I believe that is from around 1910. And it shows, not very clearly, but the sidewalk, and that's the area that we're looking at. As I say, I've been in touch with Evans Construction, and they would like to just come out and look at it, and then we can get back to you folks with a number.
Has there been any discussion of state grants for sidewalk projects? Does something like this?
Not to my knowledge, no. This has all sort of come about in the last, well, we've been talking about it for months. Walter, last summer, basically shoveled out a large section of the sidewalk that had been buried. And so, anyway, we thought this would enhance the village. It might also help with traffic calming. And I guess, we do stress that this is a repair of an existing sidewalk as opposed to new construction. So I haven't talked to the state, maybe you folks would know, if it is a repair of an existing sidewalk, do we need to have the state involved? Walter seemed to feel that we did not, but I don't know who we talked to.
The only reason I'm suggesting to involve them is to see if we could get money from them.
Yeah.
Right.
They might only be willing to help us if we update it to current federal standards, which is
Right.
What, different than what it used to be?
very, very different from what it currently looks like.
Well, that's what we were sort of, hoping that the ARPA funds this might be a good use for that.
We brought this up here a long time ago, probably 2 or 3 years ago, I think we brought this up when we was trying to figure out something. But then that's what I said, if we did that sidewalk and then cross over by Walters and put the other sidewalk on the other side of the road with a crosswalk at the end of where the house where it ends now. But I was even thinking like some kind of lighting along it, like a dim light so it brightens. Because half the problem, you go down through there at night, it's so dark, that
Right.
if somebody walking, you can't see them. And it's nothing like what Dover did, but you could put some lights and just kind of keep it to the ground level, and it goes up through there. But that's what I brought it up.
That's new construction, I believe, so that would.
But like you said, redo the other one, then crosswalk across and go flat up the other side to the post office. And that gives a place to walk, because on the other side, it's so close to the poles and the bank, there's no place to really go here.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I would like see something like that. It does help it, but it might, like you said, slow people down too. Then you could almost put down the signs like the crosswalk,
Yeah.
And it really wouldn't cost that much to go up on the other side even.
I'm not sure about that, but we can certainly, when Evans Construction comes out, we can certainly, ask them to.
Sometimes it's less expensive to just put in new sidewalks rather than if they're in bad repair, just to repair them. Does that
Well, you
make
probably have to do the whole thing new again, but you're going over what you got. It's existing, so you just bring it to the right grade, because like you said, the road's been built up so it's sitting like this down into the hole where the water all runs down onto the sidewalk. So you can still fix it, because it is existing all the way up to across from Walters almost, I think it is.
Right, yeah, that's where the existing sidewalk is.
Right.
Just to clarify, if this is something that the town were to agree to pay for, regardless of what funds of money it came from, we still have to use our procurement rules, which would require that this would have to go out to bid.
Right.
Just to be clear.
Okay.
So I mean, talking to
So
Evans-
you need, what, 3 bids?
Well, why don't you just start with Evans and find out some idea of.
An estimate.
Estimate,
Exactly.
how many zeros are we talking about? So why don't you just start there? But if this were to move forward, it would require that we put it out for bid.
Right.
I
Understood.
Excellent.
Okay.
Anything further for John on the Williamsville sidewalk repair and replacement? Thank you so much for being here tonight. Look forward to hearing updated information.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. And next I'd like to welcome Henriette Mantel. She's here for the Newfane Cemetery Association. Good evening, glad to have you.
Thank you. I didn't print out the letter. Do you want me to read you the letter? Did you read the letter already?
You want me to read it? Do you want to read it?
I can read it.
Excellent.
If you want to.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm representing the Newfane Cemetery Association. I'm the new president. The board is Wynn Clark and his wife, Bobby Litchfield, Norman Holden, and Greg Record. And I was on their case about fixing the cemetery, and so I went to the meeting, and within the first 4 minutes, I was elected the president.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm writing to you as the president of the Newfane Village Cemetery Association to ask for ARPA funds. All money will be used to repair and keep up memorials and grounds for many of our local ancestors, as well as future residents who choose to join them. Our association covers both the Hill and Woodlawn cemeteries, and our goal is to keep them in decent and respectful shape. Other than mowing, the grounds there have had no major work done on either cemetery in about 50 years, except for the fact that Michael Statz and Newfane painters volunteered and helped me and Bobby Litchfield paint one of the buildings, but that was on our own dollar. The Hill Cemetery opened in 1812 and still has a few open spaces. The Woodlawn Cemetery is active with many people still living who choose to be memorialized there someday. We're planning to make the Hill Cemetery active again by mapping out new lots for cremation memorials. We need to figure that out, but we already have 6 Newfaners signed up. When the Civil War soldiers went to Gettysburg and elsewhere to fight for the North, many of them were sons of farmers in Vermont, especially Newfane. Many of these men are buried on the Hill Cemetery or in danger of sliding down the steep banks and onto the road. 4 of the large retaining walls need to be fixed. Thanks to the Vermont Old Cemetery Association and the Stone Trust in Dummerston, we have found a civic-minded stone builder who will work this summer to rebuild the walls. The vault where Jonathan, and his name is Jonathan Parks, not Jonathan Fields. Sorry. I always get the field guy and the park guy mixed up. He donated the common, as we all know, to the children of Newfane, and he has a vault up there with his whole family in it. And after about 200 years of weather and hurricanes, and there's starting to be holes in it, and you can see in it, it needs to be patched up. Bobby Litchfield said we're probably gonna have to put gravel and cement to hold it up because it's starting to cave in. And I mean, I just feel like, you know, the dude gave us the whole common and the courthouse and everything. We should take care of him. I'm also surprised at the number. I'm kind of just telling you instead of reading, I'm sorry. But all the people that visit the cemeteries, I'm always surprised. And the guy, you know, the first station master, he's buried up there, and everybody always wants to see who he is. Stephen Green, what's his name? Anyway, he's buried. A lot of people are buried there, and a lot of people go visit there. Now, the Woodlawn Cemetery is more active, which I'm sure we all know people that are memorialized there, including families, I'm sure, of some of us. And my family's in the Hill Cemetery, full disclosure, but they're fine. They don't need to be fixed. But yeah, so we just need to fix these cemeteries, especially the Hill Cemetery is going to pot. It's really bad up there. And I'd like to fix the steps there too. There's these old stone steps, and Wynn Clark has given me estimates on gravel and cement, and I got estimates on people that would fix the retaining wall anywhere from $2,000 to $30,000 from stone wall makers in Vermont. That was interesting. Of course, I took the guy, I talked to a lot of them, and I confirmed with one guy that we will use him because he came in at 1,800 and he is a ex hedge fund manager from Chicago who just wants to build stone walls and cemeteries for the rest of his life. Wow. Probably to alleviate his guilt. But anyway.
It's just a couple of different projects for him.
Yeah, so that's basically what I need the money for. And, you know, we don't charge much for lots up at Woodlawn, and I'm trying to talk those guys into maybe putting it up a little bit, or, I mean, I don't know where people want to get buried anymore, you know, and the cremation thing, the minute I started saying that to people, they're like, hey, we'll buy a lot in Newfane, we grew up here, we want to, you know, have a little memorial with our name on it. And I said, good.
How does one find out about openings available?
You can ask me, or you can ask Wynn Clark.
Okay.
Wynn Clark is the guy that's in charge of his wife is the treasurer, and he's in charge of showing you the lot up at Woodlawn. Now, there's no lots at the Hill Cemetery except for the ones we're gonna do for cremation, hopefully as soon as we figure out how to map it out. And we had, somebody said it was a swamp, but
Yeah,
it's
but you
not.
said that 6 people have signed up
Yeah.
recently. How did they get to sign up? How did they
Well, they
know
just
about
told me
it?
put my name on a list.
Oh.
It's not formal.
Oh. No, I just want to know.
Okay, yeah, no, they said put my name on a list, they want their ashes there, or some of their ashes there. Anyway. So that's.
I always love
Do you have
when
any
you present to us.
Oh, God.
I did talk to Jay after he was here last time about looking at the road to bring it up to where that step is.
Yeah, oh, good, thank you.
And filling that in along there, because the road's a lot lower than we walk up in there.
Mhm.
And,
Those steps have always been kind of dangerous when I was.
Yeah, I mean, we got, well, Bobby Litchfield and Michael Stats and I did some kind of just Band-Aids up there, you know, trying to fix things, but, I mean, I don't know, I just feel bad, you know, for the Civil War soldiers if they come, you know, they're starting to really go. I mean, I don't know if I imagine their coffins are rotted out, although Charlie said their bones are still there.
How can you deny this?
I'm sorry. Well, I don't think anybody else is gonna speak up for him if I don't, so I'm here to represent.
Great.
Thank you.
What are your plans? Charlie said he would talk about how to orchestrate work days, work party days.
Right, so we're
That's
gonna
a cool
have,
idea. I'd like to hear more about
well, we're
that.
gonna have hopefully 2 days this summer. I have a list of 35 volunteers.
Great.
And 30 of them have said yes, and the other 5 are thinking about it. But I made the list and then I asked them, but, or I told them.
Did you put my name on that list? You did? Great.
Yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah, all Litchfields, Morrisons,
Yeah, I figured as much.
Robinsons, anybody that has anybody anywhere in the cemeteries, I've asked to volunteer now. Anyway, Charlie said that we're gonna be very organized about it because, I was never very organized when he was my teacher, so he's gonna really mended our relationship. And he said we're gonna make teams, and like Grave Record will have a team, and he'll take a row of gravestones. And Wynn is delivering all the gravel and the bags of cement and everything, and then, you know, Bobby will have a team, or Danny Brooks said he'd have a team, you know, so we're gonna be organized and we're gonna get it done.
Excellent.
Cool.
But we need some cash. I did ask for money on the other thing too, because that was before I thought I could do this, so. But, you know, it just costs a lot. Everything costs a lot. We need somebody to chainsaw down the trees that have fallen on the graves, you know, and I mean, you know, I can only push Bobby and Greg Records so far, and then I gotta hire somebody to do it, you know, or pay some kid, I don't know.
Yep.
Sorry, okay.
Don't be sorry.
How much are you asking for it?
5,000.
So,
Seems very reasonable.
That's what I think too. Somebody asked me to ask for 10, I said, oh my God, I feel so bad asking for 10.
thank you for your lively request. How does the board feel?
well, if we don't have it in the cemetery commission already for money, something like that, do we? Or do we-
They came to the select board for an appropriation, I believe, for $500.
Right, that was before I knew I could do this.
Jane Douglas has a question. Good evening, Jane. Glad to have you.
Hello, as the trustee of the South Newfane Cemetery Association, I'd like to point out that this brings up a great issue that some of us have talked about for a number of years now. The fact that there are about 23, 24 cemeteries in the town of Newfane, 3 of which are private associations. The other 20 belong to the town and they're the responsibility of the town to maintain. But the 3 private associations are supposed to have their own endowment fund and do their own maintenance and are not the responsibility of the town. Now, we've talked a few times, Erica Walsh and I, Lauren Wallingford-Bacon have talked about trying to resurrect the original Newfane Cemetery Commission and decommission all the private cemeteries and make everything under the jurisdiction of the town of Newfane. that would be all the cemeteries, including the ones that are private right now. And that way the town would be responsible for all the maintenance in the private association cemeteries as well, which are the three largest and are the three that are currently open and have lots to sell. It's a kind of a question. It's the South Newfane one. We've had to take down some trees. We've done heavy duty maintenance on the stones, and it's depleted our money terrifically. And we really need to put a new fence around the whole thing, and yet we don't really have enough money to cover that at this point. So I guess my question would be, is this the desire of the select board to turn all the cemeteries into the ownership and stewardship of the town of Newfane, so that all of them would be taken care of by the town of Newfane? If you're going to grant one piece of ARPA money, you're going to need to grant some ARPA money to the other two large cemeteries that are private associations, because both of us have a lot of work that needs to be done and we can't afford it.
Can you clarify for me which are the private ones?
The Williamsville Cemetery that's on either side of Depot Road, and South Newfane is down the Argyle Road. It's the site of the old Pondville Church. It's next to Darrow's Olali North Gardens. So they're both open. They're both private associations. They have their own trustees. Last I knew, Williamsville one was Doris Knitchell and David Berry. Not sure what else. But the one in South Newfane is myself and Arthur Bailey, and one out of Powling. Who's right there?
And these two that we're talking about in this proposal, those are both town cemeteries?
Yes, no, these are private cemeteries.
These are private, Woodlawn and
I
Hill are
think,
private.
I hear everything you're saying. I think you're asking a bigger question that could probably be presented over the next year to change the arrangement of the ownership of the cemeteries. Right now, what I'm worried about in the immediate future is that we don't have enough money in our endowment because people have been dead for so long that I was trying to get a high school kid to research if there's any relatives now. I talked to some guy in LA whose, great uncle is buried there, and, he said, oh, I'll send you some money, but it's like, I guess I'm in the now, with this, and I think all your questions are wonderful, and I think it's a great idea to consolidate, but I also know that right now I'm just speaking for my organization.
Yes, the Newfane Cemetery Association is a private, not-for-profit corporation, just like the Williamsville one is in the South.
Correct. Correct, and we have been destroyed, as part of the town, we were destroyed by the hurricanes on the hill that made it slide down. So therefore, I'm asking for ARPA funds because of the weather stuff that ARPA was originally.
Chris White would like to say something. She's been waiting patiently.
Sorry, it's perfectly all right.
Go ahead, Chris.
And I can't speak for the Williamsville Association, but I think that would be a pretty hard sell, let me just say that. It's been privately owned and privately managed and very well, their money has been very well managed. And I think I would hope you'd reach a lot of resistance in trying to take that away. Just saying.
I think this is the first we've all heard of that proposal.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've talked to Doris a couple of times, and it's something that I guess I have no problem with using ARPA money to repair any of the cemeteries. They all really should be under the umbrella of the town of Newfane. They were private associations for reasons lost in the mist of time. The one in South Newfane because it used to be part of the church in South Newfane. But recognize that they are private associations. So you're giving ARPA money to a private association, which means that the South Newfane one will be coming in with a request for money for a new fence because we can't afford it. But it's a question, and I would love to resurrect the cemetery commission and put all the cemeteries in town under one umbrella, because I know people have talked to me about several cemeteries along the river road that haven't been mowed in years. And I don't know whether the town's simply forgotten about them or what. This is the way that the towns and cemeteries are arranged is under a cemetery commission with a appointed cemetery commissioner by the town of Townsend, which is Charlie Marshall, and he's responsible for all the cemeteries in town. So it's an unusual situation we have in Newfane, with 3 of them being private associations and the other 20 being part of the town.
I feel like we only mow 5 of them or something. Well, if we talk about it during budget season because we pay a mower to mow some of them, but how many do we actually take care of? And then, like, I know there's a cemetery way back on my hill that is 4/10 of a mile, half a mile away from Adams Hill. It is nowhere near on private land. And that one, the people who live there, we take care of it. All of us take care of it. If we just do it because, I don't know, I grew up with stones there, so I take care of them.
Well, a lot of these were families. You know, the family would have a farm and grandma would die and you'd bury her out behind the house in a nice little hill. And you know, most of those other 20 cemeteries are just 1 or 2 families in them. My particular some number great grandfather is buried up on the Betterly Road in the Betterly Cemetery. There's 2 families in there. That's it. And that is owned by the town of Newfane. It is supposed to be maintained by the town of Newfane, but I go up and clean it up quite often.
All right, so this is a lot of information.
Yeah. Oh, there again, you know, I think it's good use of the money.
So let's bring it back to
it's pretty visible. Like you said, it's an old cemetery, and a lot of people you know live there.
And it's going towards 2 cemeteries, not just the one.
Right, it's going towards one very active cemetery and one not so active, but.
But I think, like I said, the town should be able to put it along the roadside of it to help out.
Does the ARPA definition of funds include cemeteries as part of the living betterment of the community? I mean, I guess that would be something to discuss. Well, the guy did give the whole common.
Right.
So I kind of want to feel like, you know, he did us a big favor.
We don't own the common.
Yeah, we don't own the common.
He gave it to
The
the
judicial
children of
branch
Newfane.
does.
The common is given to the children of Newfane.
Yeah.
It's on the plaque, it's in the history books, everything. He gave it to the children of Newfane. That's why we used to.
Which is run by the court.
Right, the county, but
The county.
he did give it to the children of Newfane. I read the whole lease.
So back to the ask. How does the board feel?
Yeah, I feel so. I guess, yeah, I would recommend either we come up with that or the town does something with it, you know, because like it's town cemeteries or whatever, cemeteries, they should be tended to by the town somewhat, I guess. But I would like to see it fixed up. I don't see it falling out the bank. And there's a lot of cemeteries around. There's one over behind my grandmother's up on top of the hill.
Oh, yeah.
They're everywhere.
I totally agree that, you know, there could be a great cemetery, so I guess I'm just asking for the specific
Right.
2 cemeteries, because
Right.
I'm worried about the people in the
Like I
cemetery.
said, the one up in the woods, probably nobody hardly knows about it anymore.
Right,
You know?
oh yeah, I know where there's a couple down by the river road too.
Well, Clarence
Okay.
stepped in it years ago and he didn't even look back, so the guy did come out.
What would the board like to do? There is an ask, a request for ARPA funds for the amount of $5,000 for the Newfane Village Cemetery Association.
I'm torn.
Yeah.
I feel like the request is, I understand where the request is coming from. I have to say, I feel like I hear what Jane is saying. A little bit feels like floodgates have opened up, that I find a little bit overwhelming.
And I agree, we should take care of those floodgates and we should do that, but it's just that I'd like to get this work done before those guys fall down the hill.
And so that's gonna take another year of red tape to put together a cemetery association or whatever gets done. I don't understand, whatever happens, I guess I'm just in the immediate. And since that, I always read that ARPA funds were for damage from hurricanes and all that stuff, it's pretty brutal up there, and I do feel like I wanna take care of the people that gave us Newfane.
Well, the whole thing is once you get it fixed up, then the town could, maybe somebody gotta look at these cemeteries more because, it's like I've brought up a couple different times with our taxes. The only thing that people get out of their tax by paying their tax, they don't have kids going to school, is the use of a damn road. They gotta mow their cemetery and everything else, but after they're dead, at least they know they get something, or the family does anyways, that you're not neglecting it. And a lot of people in them cemeteries that don't spend a lot of time for the towns too, so.
Yep. Jane?
Yeah, I'm totally in favor of giving money to fix up the Newfane Cemetery, especially if it is some damage and on a wall and things are going to be washing away. But I also would love to, legally it's a long process because it literally means that each association has to dissolve themselves and deed over their property to the town. But I would love to resurrect a cemetery commission that actually had responsibility for every cemetery in town, make trustees that will take care of every cemetery in town and give them a budget to care for things. I mean, I have to beg for people to cut up trees when they come down in our cemetery. And we're really lucky that we have someone who mows because he's retired and lives next door. And so he mows for nothing. Otherwise, we'd be paying $500 a mowing for mowing in our cemetery. So
Jane,
it's a bigger question.
Jane, I would just suggest amending what you said. I think it could be any association that wanted to be part of it. So if you're saying that the Williamsville,
I'm not speaking.
I understand, but for example, if
I have a strong suspicion.
Okay, 1 second. If there is one cemetery or others that don't want to be part of a town commission, fine, they don't have to be. No one's saying it has to be every single cemetery. But if we have, let's say 20 that are already supposedly supposed to be managed by the town, and there are a couple that are not, why not start that conversation immediately and see what we can do? And in the meantime, if there's an urgent need, in this case, to go ahead with it, and I'm sure that there's going to be a proposal coming in from the South Newfane, one next week. But I think we should address the larger question. And I think instead of feeling that it has to be everybody that chooses to be part of it, it could be only those who want to be part of it.
And I'd have to ask my board if they want to be part of it, right?
Of course.
So for right now, I guess I'm just.
You have to understand the pros and what you gain and lose by it.
Right.
And then what is what does the town take on financially by taking it on?
So that would be good research and an idea for the cemetery associations to get together and have that conversation and come back to the board.
And then the committee has to be put together.
Probably, but they should probably get together and have a conversation to see if anybody even wants to join and resurrect it.
So Jane and Henriette, is that something you'd be willing to?
I'm fine with it. Basically, right now, though, I'm here for a very specific reason.
We understand that, but we're asking a separate
and I
question.
agree, if she wants to get a committee together, if I can help with that, that's another story. That's kind of the bigger picture.
I understand, but we're trying to address.
Right, all I want to know
right
is,
now.
can ARPA funds help me stop our cemetery from disintegrating?
I understand. We're asking the other question too.
I think we leave that the other question is if all of the cemetery associations
want to have a conversation about what it would mean.
And that's okay, but why aren't they separate questions tonight?
They are
Well,
separate
it came up
questions.
as separate questions. So I think that that's in their hands now, and then to come back to the board after they have their discussions. What does the board feel? But that particular question is now back to all of the Newfane cemetery associations.
What do you
South
think,
Newfane,
Jane?
The
Williamsville.
second question, you mean?
That's the second question. Then we're gonna come back to the letter
Right,
for your ask.
thank you.
What do you think, Jane?
Well, I definitely think ARPA money would be great. I mean, if the wall's giving away, that can be pretty catastrophic. So I think it would be a good
That's a different question.
The question is asking about how getting all of the cemetery associations together and talking about what you said about resurrecting.
Yeah, I've talked to Ken Esty a few times about it too, because he takes care of a small cemetery up on the Newfane Hill that apparently also is somewhat separate. I'm not sure exactly how, but like I said, Erica Walsh and Laura and I talked about this a couple of times, and if I thought it was something that the town might be in favor of, it does mean the town shouldering the responsibility financially for the cemeteries, but you would get whatever endowment money the cemeteries have at this point.
Well, I think you would have to come up with a proposal to the board. And you'd have to meet with all of the other associations and then come back to the board with all of that information. But I don't think it's gonna be handled
That's an
tonight.
issue for some other day, not tonight.
But I guess I'm just saying that if you have that discussion, to just clarify that it doesn't have to be every cemetery in the town of Newfane. It could be only those that want to participate.
Right.
That makes sense?
It's not all or nothing.
Right, exactly, exactly.
So now moving back to the ask from the Newfane Cemetery Association.
Well, like I said, I'm willing to do that ARPA money. So we said we was gonna save out 150, we're at 190 something, so.
Well,
it looks
after
like-
the approximately 26,000 that just went to the Newfane.
Looks like we had
Hall, we're at
17,000.
177.
I thought that was subtracted from that.
No.
Not before the.
So you're down to 17,592.91 after the Union Hall.
So is there a motion to approve ARPA funds for the cemetery association to repair Woodlawn and Hill cemeteries?
I already made one.
You're making the motion?
Go over the 5,000.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain. Save the cemeteries, please.
Thank you very much.
Like I said, we'll
Thank
get the
you.
town up there to do
And
all
then
the
if-
kennel on the road too,
I'll
so.
see you at the work day.
Yeah, let me know when they ask. Yes. Okay, moving right along. Do we have any unscheduled members of the public that would like to speak? Any new business? Old business, town beautification, how's that coming along?
It's
Any
going along
interest?
great. I was hoping to talk to Jay tonight to get at some of the steel, because I've had a few people ask me to look at it.
Did Tony get a hold of you?
Nope.
Okay, I told him to get a hold of you, he's interested.
Great.
I'll tell him again.
Tell him again.
Well, geez, I'm sick.
He is very sick, I spoke with him this morning.
Really bad.
What does he have?
He has the flu.
Oh,
Well, flu, but he hasn't slept in 3 days. he
oh
said.
my goodness.
So,
Yeah, he texted me at like 5:30.
you're good
this
until you
morning.
talk to him?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to get at that steel and maybe bring some of it up to my house so people can come there and look at it, not have to bother the town guys.
That's at the garage.
Yeah, it's at the garage.
Any updates on FEMA buyout?
Yes, yes, there is.
Take the floor.
So, when I spoke with the Vermont Emergency Management folks, and they took me through the process, the first thing that we're waiting to get is a sub-grant approval letter. We haven't gotten that, correct? Melissa, right, so we're still waiting for that. They said because the next step that you do, as soon as that letter is all signed, sealed, and delivered, is you do an appraisal of the property. That appraisal price determines how much FEMA will pay for the purchase of the property from the current homeowner. So they strongly urged us to go out and collect bids from appraisers, because many appraisers, they said, were working with a significant backlog. So Melissa got me a number of names that had been suggested by the New England Municipal Consultants, as well as by the towns of Dover and Brattleboro. And then I also found a number of companies that are listed on the Vermont state of the state? Nah, the Department of State of the state. Their website, they list approved appraisers. And I ended up calling 10 different appraisal companies. 5 of them called me back, and 4 of them submitted a proposal. So I have a copy for you as well. The proposals from the 4 companies. And I wanted to just take you quickly through them. One of them is a company, Sargent Appraisal. They are proposing that they could do it for up to $2,500. They are the company that has the most experience in doing this. In the past 10 years, they've done over 200 FEMA buyouts. I spoke with a woman, Leslie Shaw. Her experience is much more as a home appraiser, or maybe even a business appraiser, but she has not done the FEMA buyouts particularly. And she was not comfortable entering a building, which I think you really have to be able to enter the building, so you have to be able to give a fair appraisal to the for the homeowner. So her fee was $950. A third company was Brian Audie of Audie Appraisals. They were saying that the fee would range from $1,200 to $1,800, depending on the condition of the building. So if there is any way that the building can be resurrected and there is value in the building, then you have to do a much more extensive analysis of what the appraised value is. If the building is completely trashed, as it is, perhaps the store is, then it would have no value and it would not contribute to the overall value of the property. So that was his. And then David Buckley from Real Estate Services Vermont, his fee came in at $4,000. So that was really rather on the high end. I called up Vermont Emergency Management and spoke to the lawyer there that was helping us on the case. When we did the original budget, we had put in, we were advised to put in $1,000 for the appraisal. She said to me that all the appraisals are coming in as much more. So I said to her, well, what's a fair price? What can we, what do you suggest? She said up to $2,500 is what she thought was a fair, and that it is then FEMA. She would, either we would have monies left over from other parts of the budget where we don't fully spend, so we could have the additional for appraisal, or we would have to go to FEMA and ask for extra money to cover this. So that was what her recommendation was. Based on these 4 proposals, it is my suggestion that we go with Sean Sargent, whose fee is up to $2,500. He's the one with the most experience. He was the most complete in the questions that he was asking me and in the approach that he was taking. I felt like we would get the best evaluation and the most complete evaluation so that the homeowner would feel satisfied that we had done everything, that we had looked at every possibility for him. So that is my recommendation. My request is that we sign, if people agree, that we sign the contract tonight from Sean Sargent. If we do, then what that means is we would get on his list so that he would be ready to do the appraisal as soon as we have the sub-grant approval letter.
So you had the one for 900 and something?
That's correct.
And she said that the building wasn't, she weren't going in the building. But I could probably see that, because I say the store, the floor is falling right off the window.
Exactly, it's very bad.
So like something like that, that'd be a liability to the homeowner, so that'd be what it's gonna cost to almost tear it down, right? So that'd be negative, obviously. And the other buildings, I mean, and what was the other one? You had another one for 12 to 1,800 too?
That's correct.
And who was that from?
Brian Audie, do you want to see?
No, it's sorry, you just.
Okay. Brian Audie from Audie Appraisals. Yeah.
Now, what would be the difference between them and the other guy? Just because
Honestly,
they've done a lot more.
experience, that's really what it comes down to. So Brian says he has done 2 in the last year, 1 for Brandon and 1 for Dorset. Yeah.
But wouldn't we have to put it out to bid if it goes over 2,000?
For a, services, you don't have to
Okay.
according to our procurement,
Okay.
rules.
Now, do we get that money back too?
We initially pay it out and we get it all back, almost, I think within like 30 days, they said we get it back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So for the actual, when we get to the actual purchase price, then we get that money in advance from the state. But all of the other expenses, we front it and then they pay us back.
I mean, I can see the value, the 2,500, where the FEMA's gone in and ripped half the house down and all that kind of stuff. But this is just an old building that's gone by the wayside that they'll cover to get removed. It's not been hurt by the flood.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I'd almost either go with the 950 or the one for 12 to 1,800.
Mm-hmm.
That way, one thing about it, we don't have to worry about the $2,000 deal, 'cause we're under that. I mean, you say it's for service, but
We already have 1,000.
I mean, it's really, it's not been damaged by the flood waters. So it's just something that you know, the other guy's gone in and he's trying to figure out what the house was before the flood and everything else. This has just gone to hell.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
And like I said, you got a building that's rotting, which really, instead of having any value, it might take 30,000 off the price of 40,000.
But we're not paying for it, it's the.
No, I know what I'm saying is the value of the place,
Yep,
but he's doing it. I just didn't see a guy that's really looking at it that way instead of it as being tore apart by a flood. You know, if I was gonna buy the place, you know, I'd rather get the true thing than somebody tell me that that's gonna cost you 30,000 to remove it, you know?
Right.
So that comes, because the place is worth 200, now you're down to 170 or something. I mean, I think it's quite a difference between guys that work at just flood stuff or real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So
I would say go with Sargent. It seems like they have the most experience. If you said they were the most comprehensive at answering questions, it says it's up to 2,500. Seems like if they had to really dive into the building and make sure it was structurally sound and solid, that yeah, they would have to poke around a lot and it could get up to 2,500. If they walk on site and they're like, I'm not even gonna step into this place, it's just a disaster, I doubt the appraisal would get that high.
Right. I want the homeowner to feel that we did.
Exactly.
That
it would
we-
give them the best
Due diligence.
sense of
Yeah,
security.
exactly, that I think will make a big difference in his comfort with whatever appraisal price comes
Yeah,
back.
I definitely wouldn't go with the one that's like, I won't even walk in there
Mhm.
without knowing what it is.
Mhm.
Can I have a motion?
I make a motion, go with Sergeant.
Is there a second?
Can I second?
I don't see why not.
Okay, I second it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Abstentions? Ayes have it.
I just go with the fact the whole $2,000 deal.
But it's up to, it's not really going,
Yeah, but he's not, we didn't say not to exceed 2,000.
He said up to 2,500.
Yeah, that exceeds 2,000. Anything over $2,000, let's go to bid.
Well, the services contract, it does not require according to our.
That's what it says in that thing too.
Correct. Correct.
okay. Anything else on the FEMA buyout?
No. And then I'll just need your signature there.
Is there a motion for, are you covering it under this?
What, the signature?
Oh, do you want a separate motion for that?
Please.
Okay.
Motion for me to sign?
Second.
Are you making the motion?
No, I'm
not
making the motion. I'm making the motion for. you to
Second.
sign.
I'll second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, I'm not voting because I'm sorry. 3, 4,
Mhm.
there you have it. All right, any ARPA funds? I think we've talked about ARPA a lot tonight.
So we have that one thing, that
Oh.
resolution.
To move the
Yes.
funds. Has everybody thought about that? We talked about it at length last meeting. Are there any questions?
Melissa is here for this purpose.
We'll give Jeff a moment to come back and see if he has any questions. Do you have any, Katie?
I don't.
Mike?
No.
Okay, so we're gonna take just a moment to breathe.
Do you want to look at the articles where we're waiting
Oh, right.
to see if there's anybody that's interested in choosing one or the other?
I think Melissa and I are all prepared for Article 5, correct?
That we are prepared for Article 5?
Yes.
You don't think Jay's gonna be there? 'Cause I thought he
If
was-
Jay's gonna be there, I mean, it was the three of us that were signed up to be ready for it.
Yep, no,
And
I mean. Yeah. I'm good.
Oh, no, hey, didn't Jay say somebody had somebody want to work part-time too?
He does, but I have not heard whether.
Well, I got to talk, you know, I just wondered if we even need to, maybe that get voted down and just go with the part-time guy with it. They all feel comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm. That sounds great. I think we pretty much mostly have just, if somebody has an answer, raise their hand and they answer. I don't think we actually all need to be assigned to anything, do we?
No.
No.
As long as our treasurer is present.
What time
I think I'm getting
are
sick.
we arriving tomorrow? Can we take a moment and talk
Usually
about that
they do
since we
between
talked about
8:30
anything
and
else?
8:45,
I would say as long as you're there by 10 and 9 and ready to go.
I would.
That'd be the latest.
So Jay's sick. Who sets up the chairs? That's my
They
question.
already
already
done
did
that.
that today.
That's done?
Yeah, they do that today.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause he said they went over and the candle farm didn't
Right.
clean up much, so they had to deal with that.
So they do that on Monday beforehand, so we just have to show up. That's all we have to do, correct?
Gotta take the flags over tomorrow.
Well, the road crew should take those over, shouldn't they?
Okay.
I was told that they're the ones that take everything over, the road crew.
I think they did, don't they? They don't.
I've done it in the past.
Well, if I had a vehicle big enough to put them in, I would do that for you, but I don't.
This is one, how many people will be at it tomorrow? It just goes pretty quick. I've had a lot of people say, why can't you have it on a Saturday?
Yeah. Okay, so,
Even the evening. I think we could do an evening meeting.
I agree with the evening or Saturday. Haven't they done studies that?
yes, we've talked about that at many lengths, but I'd like to go back to the agenda, and we were talking about the ARPA funds and the discussion of moving the funds last week,
Yes.
or at our last meeting. And, do you have any questions? Because it was tabled for everybody to look at and think about what Ann was presenting. And Melissa's here if there are any questions for anybody. Do you want to do a quick reminder of the whole, what we're voting on?
Is a recommendation from VLCT that we take the money that is currently listed in our general fund,
ARPA funds.
ARPA fund, and move it into our general fund,
Yep.
which will allow us to close out the ARPA fund itself, so that we are no longer then held to have to completely spend all the money by the deadline that is set by ARPA, which is all decisions have to be made by the end of this calendar year, and then all the funds have to be spent 2 years after that. So the federal government has given a lot more leeway to small localities, towns, especially like ours, where you got under $10 million. I'm sure just to make their auditing processes easier. So this is one of the opportunities that we have to try to simplify the bookkeeping. So it's really just a bookkeeping matter that we're discussing. We can still continue to discuss how we want to spend the money. All the things that we've been talking about spending the money on is totally fine. This is really a bookkeeping entry in order to move it from one fund to another. Did I explain it well this time?
Yeah.
Any questions?
So the only thing is I did talk to Katie today, and I talked to Jordan from Sullivan and Powers. Because we have these two that we just committed to for the Union Hall and the cemetery, we would actually leave those behind, and I'll cut checks for them, and then just move the rest of it.
Okay.
Okay.
So we just have to make sure we're saying the correct amount in the.
Yeah, and I wanna, cause
Plus
now
what
I
we
got
approved
everything.
tonight, plus what we approved tonight.
That's what you.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave those in the ARPA fund, I'm gonna cut the
Right.
checks for them, if they're cut by March 31st, then they're gone and done. I will need a vote after we move these, because we have the Williamsville Hall generators for 9,500, and the town beautification. Jordan said you guys can just take a vote to move them into like capital, and that way they're reserved, so you won't use them.
Good.
I guess we haven't used that bylaw match one yet? Is that
Correct, because the grant isn't over yet, correct.
Okay, so once we move it, also in the general fund, we'll just have to take the votes to do all those.
So which ones you got to move around tonight, tomorrow, or whenever?
Well, I just wanna go through and do all the calculations again, because now that we've
Okay.
added and subtracted, I had it all figured out before
So you
these
got
guys
the-
came in.
Right, so you had the Windsor Hall, the beautification, the music thing,
Cemetery.
and the cemetery.
So
Make a motion to move the remainder over to those. Like what you
But we have to have an exact amount to do that.
So I can't move the other ones because we don't know when we're paying them, and that's like the Waynesville Hall, the town beautification.
Right.
So that's why I have to move them into the general fund with our payroll retention, and then we can dedicate them.
Right.
So I'm sorry.
It's just bookkeeping.
So can't you move the 150,000 that you already agreed to use as the revolving fund?
Well, we haven't agreed that we're going to use it as a revolving fund.
It's
We've
just
agreed
set
to hold
aside.
it
Oh,
in
I'm
case
sorry.
we want to.
I'm sorry.
I'm coming up with $162,592.91 to move it into the general fund. But I wanna confirm all that.
So then you're saying let's not
So we could do
sign
that.
off on this until you confirm the numbers, correct? Or
Are
no?
you-
Because there are numbers in here.
Right, so
Yeah,
we
I
had some bad math. This number's wrong, so then we have that number, and then we have, that's a rounded number, 'cause
Yep.
and then that, and so we don't match by $10,000, and so I'm wondering what's going on.
Yeah.
So why don't we hold this till the next,
Yeah,
but then it has to be, we have to do this before the end of March.
March 18th, it will be the next regular select board meeting.
Do you have to have the exact number in there, is that why?
Well, you
Yes,
wanted-
that's what it says here. It gives an exact number.
Okay,
Do you want this?
yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but I just, cause there's so much
It
back and
was
forth
based
tonight and.
on that, at that point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move that to March 18th. So we have the accurate numbers. Great. Anything else for old business? I forgot to mention, if I could, I forgot to mention at the beginning during additions and amendments to add a response to Bill Morse's concerns when he came in and sent us, or when he sent us a letter. And then we had David and a discussion with David and Merle a letter was drafted that I can send out to the board. It was sent to Merle and David Cotton to see how they felt about it, and David approved. And I'll send it out, and maybe on March 18th. Do we need to have motions to send correspondence out, or
No.
I can go ahead and just send it out, sign it and send it out, but give you guys all a copy of it. And hopefully that might be good. So that, we've been working on that, so. Anything else? We already did all of our correspondence that we had, right?
Do we need to do anything in terms of the warnings?
Well, okay, oh, yeah, back to that. My thought was that we really haven't ever been assigned.
Yeah.
It's, if you have something you wanna say towards it. I mean, we've been working with it all together, so I think we're all pretty much on the same page of everything.
And as long as we have Melissa there, some of these are financial in nature.
And
then
she
you get to
has
the
to be there.
appropriations, yeah.
But I did say that, at the beginning of the Article 5, is it?
Mhm.
The employee that Jay, her, and I had said we would talk about it if it needs to be talked about.
Okay.
But
We need to, I did not have a chance to look at these materials.
that can be
from Bob Fisher.
continued.
Do
That
we-
can jump in, okay.
Maybe I'll call Jay in the morning to see how he's feeling and ask him about that whole employee thing again. I mean,
Yeah.
if he feels comfortable with a part-time guy, no sense throwing another $100,000 into the budget.
Because we've already approved that.
Yep.
But we just haven't seen any paperwork come through on it.
But there was that larger idea that you've been promoting for a long time of wanting to
Well, then
see.
he said that they feel real comfortable with this a part-time guy, so.
We'll see how the town,
See what
what the
they
town
think.
has to say, because
Yeah.
they're gonna be the ones making
You
the
know,
whole
it's-
decision.
Yep.
Thing of it is that everything's just getting higher and higher and higher.
It is.
We ain't seen the school thing yet.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. And that's
When is that vote?
I haven't been able to figure that out.
Yeah, I haven't heard either, and I did get the itemized thing, but it's really not itemized, so
No,
it's not
it's
really worth your time or
They're
effort.
making this addition under five.
It's all under big headings and conglomerated.
At the end of
Can't make
old
any-
business, I forgot to mention it here, so I wanted to just say that a letter had been drafted and will be sent out, and I'll forward it to the rest of the board. Great.
And Netta, this is for your files, and I'll give a copy to Melissa.
Thank you.
Anything else under old business? Any other things? Anything? All right, well, with that, we'll move into pay orders. I'd like to thank everyone that came tonight, and we'll see everyone tomorrow for town meeting at 9 a.m. at Newfane Union Hall. Stay safe and have a good night.